The polling is underway in the island nation of Sri Lanka with 15.9 million registered voters. This is being touted as a watershed moment in the history of one of Asia's oldest democracies. And this is an election like never before. Both leading contenders, Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Sajith Premadasa, arrived at their respective polling stations to cast their vote. Rajapaksa appeared extremely confident as he arrived at the polling booth, saying the people of Sri Lanka could get a better future under him.
Sir, do you feel confident, sir?
Yes. Very confident, very confident.
Sir, how confident are you?
Very confident.
Sorry?
Very confident.
And sir, what do you want to bring to the people of Sri Lanka, sir? Sir, if elected,
People of Sri Lanka will get a better future under me, under my presidency.
And his main political rival, Sajith Premadasa, took to Twitter, urging people to go out early and cast their votes to elect the country's next leader. Meanwhile, a convoy of Muslim voters were ambushed in the northwestern Sri Lanka merely hours before polling opened in the country. Police said that the government burned tires on major roads to set up roadblocks, after which a convoy of 100 buses were ambushed. Police say that there have been no reports of casualties so far and that 2 buses were shot at in the attack. Joining us live is Zulfiq Farzan from Colombo, Sri Lanka. A very good morning to you, Zulfiq. 6 weeks of campaigning, the neck-to-neck race has seen tensions mount across Sri Lanka. Get us the latest on the voting process.
Well, as you said, it has been a neck-to-neck campaign with the 2 main contenders and the remaining other candidates for the presidential election that is taking place right now. So our reports are suggesting that there's a massive voter turnout at many areas. If I may mention about one area, that is Negombo, which is towards the north of Colombo. In Negombo, at one polling station, there were queues since 7 in the morning, and there's still the queue is on as large crowds move towards polling stations to cast their vote. And a similar situation is experienced across many other areas across Sri Lanka right now. As you said, the 2 main candidates, Sajith Premadasa and Gotabaya Rajapaksa, have been in a neck-to-neck campaigns for 6 weeks, along with the other candidates as well, like the National People's Power, Anukumara Dissanayake, the National People's Party, retired General Mahet Sedanayake, who is the former army commander as well. So in all of these campaigns, they've been speaking a lot of issues, especially on the economy as well as national security. We've heard statements being made from one camp being dismissed by the other. So this goes on. This went on for almost 6 weeks and until the period of election silence. For the ground situation, what we can say is the voter turnout is larger than expected. So we'll wait to see how it proceeds throughout the day, as the Elections Commission had also stressed on for all the voters to move to the polling stations as soon as possible, because at this time the doors will close exactly at 5 o'clock.
Also, after Rajapaksa cast his vote, he said he's confident. What is he banking on primarily right now to win this election, now, despite the controversies that surfaced against him? Also, on the other hand, there is Sajith Premadasa, a rather low-key politician. How is this likely to play out?
Well, if you look at the 2 main contenders, that's the Sajith Premadasa, who is the son of former late President Ranasinghe Premadasa, and Gotabaya Rajapaksa is the brother of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Now, both of them have been on a neck-to-neck campaign during the past 6 weeks, as you mentioned. They've been delivering promises on their election stages. Their manifestos are rather quite interesting as well. On both camps, the manifestos are speaking about the economy as well as national security and upgrading education in Sri Lanka. So it's really interesting to see how both of these main candidates are contesting. As you said, Mr. Rajapaksa said he is very confident, as well as Mr. Sajith Premadasa also expressed similar sentiments after casting his vote. So it's really interesting to see how this is going to play out at the end of the day.
Right, just hold on there, Zulfiq. Let me tell the reporter, our audience, about what's happening there in Sri Lanka. Of course, it's a big day in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has gone to polls for a presidential election that will be, in fact, a decisive moment for its future. Remember, the country is still reeling from the Easter Sunday bombings of April 2019, in which more than 250 people were killed. In fact, also before that, there was 18 months of political instability and infighting. Right. Zulfiq, now, for voters, this election comes as in fact, economic growth in the country is slated to slow down. How important do you think the economy will be for Sri Lankans when they cast their vote today?
I think the economy is one of the key points that the voters will also be looking at, because if you look at the past few years, the economic growth has been rather monotonous in Sri Lanka, despite an increase and then a slight drop as well. So voters this time around will be actually banking on the economy as well, because both main camps, including the alternative camps as well, have mentioned that the economy needs to be revived because now the rivals are blaming the government for doing away with the economy of their ad hoc procedures and off the record matters and so on. However, the government is also slamming on the other rivals, saying it's because of they obtained massive loans during their tenure in government that the country is facing an economic crisis. So both camps, including the alternatives, are really banking on the economy and have produced plans which they believe would revive Sri Lanka's economy and also bring a stable economic status for Sri Lanka.
And also there has been a lot of talk about freebies and subsidies. How will that play out?
It's been something that we've been seeing in the Sri Lankan election stage for quite some time, because when they come to the election stage, a lot of promises are also made. And I think it's time that the people also will be looking on if these promises are kept. We've seen that trend of people actually taking to social media and questioning if these promises were kept. So this time around, it's quite interesting to see. We didn't see many things being promised. Many freebies, I believe, were not promised. However, certain promises were made on reviving the economy, establishing national security, creating a peaceful environment for all communities to live together, as well as a devolution of power as well.
So my last question to you is that analysts say that these elections can also be seen as a continuation of last year's constitutional crisis, which led to confusion and a lot of instability there in Sri Lanka. Is that a likely scenario again?
Well, this time around, it's too early to predict if a likely scenario is going to play around again. However, if none of the key candidates, or either 35 of them, do not secure a majority of 50+1 at this presidential poll, it will go for a second round of counting. And that would actually seem to have an impact on Sri Lanka's political future, because if that comes into play, a lot of questions would also be asked, and a lot of people will have to answer to those questions. And it's likely that right now it is too early to predict if we are going for a second round or not. We will have to wait and see as to what happens throughout the day.
Thank you, Zulfiq Farzan, for getting us the latest there on the Sri Lankan elections.